Angel Reese shocked as Caitlin Clark makes 10 on her off the court. Caitlin Clark is quietly shaking the foundations of women's basketball. And, in some ways, she may be changing how an athlete's success is measured at all. What sets her apart isn't just her precision on the court, or the headlines she's generated with record-smashing performances. It's something else, something that's turning heads outside of the sports world. She's becoming a force in corporate circles, commanding fees that sound more like CEO salaries than athlete endorsements. While many rising stars focus on social media shoutouts and brand collaborations rooted firmly in sports culture, Clark is venturing into territories few basketball phenoms her age ever consider. She's busy signing with major corporations for speaking engagements, captivating powerful executives who'd usually never glance at a rookie's resume. And the numbers are astonishing. The rumor mill has produced a frenzy of speculation about how much she's charging. $50,000? $100,000? Some claim it's approaching $500,000 for a single appearance. But none of this happened overnight. The Caitlin Clark phenomenon didn't just spring from a single viral moment. There's a careful plan in place. Today, you're going to find out how she's blending a relentless on-court style with a business-savvy approach that could reshape the future of women's sports. We'll explore the controversies, the rumors, and the surprising alliances forming around her. By the end, you might see why fans, fellow players, and corporate moguls alike are all equally enthralled with this emerging icon. Before we dive into the deeper layers, remember this: we're only scratching the surface of how revolutionary her approach could be. The question isn't just whether Caitlin Clark will dominate the court in the years to come, it's whether she'll redefine what it means to be a professional athlete in a landscape where a single speech might outweigh an entire season's salary. From rookie to revelation, Caitlin Clark's beginnings in basketball didn't merely suggest promise, they signaled something seismic. Even in her high school days, her name buzzed among local sports circles for her uncanny ability to read the flow of a game. Whenever people described her, certain words kept popping up: instinctive, tactical, unpredictable. It was as though she saw openings a split second before anyone else, lobbing pinpoint passes, nailing shots, from angles that made seasoned coaches shake their heads in disbelief. By the time she transitioned into college hoops, the hype only grew. In a matter of months, she evolved from a local star to a national talking point. Analysts who usually reserved their top praise for established players found themselves comparing Caitlin to the best in the business. It wasn't just her stats, her entire aura radiated a kind of undeniable presence. Social media accounts dedicated to women's basketball saw their follower counts multiply whenever they mentioned her. Commentators rushed to dissect her every move. Yet, even with all this attention, the most remarkable part was the way her audience expanded beyond typical basketball enthusiasts. Young professionals, even high-level executives, started referencing her work ethic and her mental approach to the game. A few high-profile figures from various industries praised her decisiveness and unwavering confidence, drawing parallels between her on-court leadership and success in the boardroom. Suddenly, she wasn't just a thrilling athlete. She became an emblem of focus, determination, and risk-taking. This transition hinted at a bigger story. Caitlin Clark wasn't just a compelling player, she was an individual whose qualities resonated across professions. While many rookies in any sport simply try to adapt to the faster pace and tougher competition, Caitlin stood out by also attracting the curiosity of people who typically ignore the world of women's basketball. Before long, corporate invitations began trickling in. Nobody could have predicted how quickly that trickle would become a flood. Piercing the corporate world, once news broke that a prominent Women in Business conference had secured Caitlin Clark as a keynote speaker. The immediate reaction was part excitement, part bewilderment. Fans of basketball understood why she would speak. She was a phenomenon after all, but corporate insiders weren't so sure. Wasn't she just a rookie? What exactly could a college athlete turned pro share that high-powered execs didn't already know? All doubts vanished the moment tickets for that conference sold out in record time. People who typically attended these events to discuss trade expansion, market trends, and investor relations suddenly found themselves just as eager to see a basketball star as they would be to hear a billionaire tech founder. It was an unprecedented crossover, one that signaled something deeper. Caitlin Clark had tapped into a hidden reservoir of interest. When she finally took the stage, the audience wasn't filled with rowdy sports fans wearing jerseys. These were CEOs, COOs, finance directors, and marketing gurus. They weren't expecting mere game anecdotes. They wanted insights into how she maintained composure under pressure and how her strategic vision on the court could translate into practical lessons for their employees. She delivered exactly that. Her speech flowed with a confidence that belied her age. She spoke of reading opponents' habits, adapting strategies mid-game, and refusing to back down from a challenge, concepts any ambitious leader could apply to their own business environment. Afterward, chatter erupted in the hallways and online. Forums. Could this dynamic style of leadership be integrated into project management teams? Could the fearlessness of a top athlete inspire risk-taking in stagnant companies? One finance manager remarked that listening to Clark was more invigorating than any motivational talk she'd heard from seasoned executives. That hype, real, measurable excitement, created a cascade effect: more conferences, more panel invitations, and more corporate suitors who wanted a taste of Caitlin Clark's strategic thinking. The spectacular fee revelations. The ripple effects of Caitlin's speaking engagements reached new heights when rumors surfaced about her staggering appearance fees. Initially, some folks laughed it off, suggesting it was all hype. No way a rookie in women's basketball could command sums that would make even established professionals raise their eyebrows. But then the corroborations started piling up. First, it was $50,000 for a virtual session. Then whispers circulated of $100,000 to appear at a weekend leadership summit. Finally, wild speculation emerged about certain corporations paying up to $500,000 if she showed up in person for a keynote. At first, the figures sounded utterly unreal. Women's basketball players historically have struggled to receive fair compensation, let alone fees that inch toward $500,000 for an afternoon's work. But the more people examined the situation, the clearer it became. Caitlin. Clark was forging an entirely new script for how an athlete, especially a female one, could monetize success. It was no accident or stroke of luck. Every deal seemed meticulously planned to protect her brand's exclusivity. Amid this frenzy, fans on social media voiced a mixture of pride and skepticism. Some were thrilled that a woman athlete was finally breaking through the financial ceiling, effectively proving that gender didn't have to limit one's earning power. Others questioned if these rumored fees would alienate her from average basketball fans who couldn't afford to attend such events. Meanwhile, sports analysts tried and failed to find a comparable story among other rookies. Even in the men's leagues, a brand new player rarely commands these kinds of figures unless they're already a household name. The big question was why. Why were these corporations and conferences so desperate to lock in Caitlin Clark that they'd pay fees that dwarfed even established personalities in entertainment and politics? The answer, many suggested, lay in her ability to connect with an audience far beyond sports enthusiasts. She represented the next generation of high achievers who seamlessly blur the lines between athletic excellence and business sophistication. Once business leaders recognized this, they were willing to pay any price to associate with that blend of ambition, innovation, and raw competitive drive. When rivals take notice. Of course, high earnings and wide acclaim often spark rivalries. Caitlin Clark's case was no different. Angel Reese, another rising star in the league, chose a different path entirely, focusing on building a personal brand through a high-profile podcast, forging partnerships in alternative leagues, and regularly interacting with fans on social platforms. While Angel's approach appealed to younger demographics and generated plenty of headlines, Caitlin's strategy seemed to align with a different kind of power circle altogether. Unsurprisingly, comparisons became inevitable. On sports talk shows and YouTube comment sections, heated debates erupted over whose approach would have a larger impact on women's basketball. Angel supporters admired her accessibility and claimed she was more in touch with grassroots fans. Caitlin's backers argued that she was opening doors that would never have been available if she'd stayed in the conventional track of smaller sports leagues and endorsements. Behind the scenes, it was rumored that certain top personalities in the women's game felt sidelined by Caitlin's sudden crossover into the business world. They'd spent years hustling for brand endorsements, only to find that this rookie, armed with an extraordinary flair, had skipped a few rungs on the ladder. According to whispers in sports agent circles, some believed Caitlin's focus on big money. Speaking engagements was overshadowing the communal aspect of women's basketball, a space often built around unity and lifting the entire sport forward. Caitlyn, for her part, rarely commented on any rivalry narratives. She continued to share the court with the same fire, shrugging off the notion that she should either stay in her lane or pick sides between sports fandom and corporate engagement. If anything, the simmering tension seemed to elevate her. Profile further, illustrating that when rivals talk about you, whether positively or negatively, it amplifies your brand. The business strategy. Unveiled, Caitlyn's meteoric rise in business circles wasn't just a stroke of luck. Insiders close to her camp have described an almost surgical approach to how she schedules appearances and selects which platforms she'll grace with her presence. Instead of overloading her calendar with every offer that comes her way, she maintains a strict set of criteria. The event has to either align with her values, offer a compelling networking opportunity, or provide a massive audience she hasn't tapped into yet. Several corporate executives who've witnessed her in action say she operates with the maturity of a seasoned investor. She asks questions about the audience demographics, the industries represented, and the potential follow-up opportunities after her speech. Then there's the matter of her fee structure. Charities and nonprofits often receive her time pro bono, a gesture that fortifies her public image as someone who genuinely cares about giving back. Meanwhile, corporations with deep pockets can expect to pay a premium if they want her to appear. This dual-tiered system ensures she doesn't come across as purely profit-driven while still securing top-dollar deals. A major piece of her strategy involves forging relationships with older, high-net-worth individuals. While many top athletes chase social media influence among younger fans, Caitlyn recognized that real wealth in business might often stem from people in their 40s, 50s, and beyond. By rubbing elbows with influential professionals who command significant financial resources, she's opening the door to potential investment deals, advisory roles, or even co-owned business ventures down the line. Interestingly, some of her biggest detractors have also inadvertently become part of her success narrative. Critics who accuse her of being too focused on money only heighten curiosity about her methods. This curiosity drives more people, fans, and business leaders alike to examine her work ethic, her speech content, and her discipline. Paradoxically, the louder her critics get, the more potential partners come knocking, eager to see what all the fuss is about. Controversies, rumors, and whispers. No rags to riches story is complete without the swirl of controversies, and Caitlyn Clark's rise is no exception. A key talking point has been whether she's overshadowing the WNBA's team-centric ethos. By standing out so aggressively as an individual brand, some fans worry that her powerful persona and steep speaking fees might distract from the league's collective mission to elevate women's basketball as a whole. There's also a lingering fear that if she secures higher incomes away from the court, she might not commit fully to the league's schedule or promotional activities. Rumors have even floated around that certain league officials privately questioned her loyalty. Would she skip pivotal league events for more profitable speaking engagements? Could her approach set a precedent where other top athletes follow suit, each doing their own high-level deals, leaving the league to scramble for consistent star presence? These uncertainties spark debates in sports circles about whether women's basketball might become fragmented, with each standout player chasing individual business ventures instead of bolstering the league's foundation. Another rumor claimed that large corporations might be influencing her brand direction behind closed doors, suggesting that her message on leadership and resilience is somewhat curated to please big-money sponsors. While there's no solid evidence to support these theories, the whisper campaigns continued, fueled by the notion that it's nearly impossible for a player to balance pure authenticity with a high-stakes game of corporate alliances. Yet for all the whispers, Caitlyn hasn't faced any severe backlash that derailed her momentum. If anything, each controversy seems to highlight just how uncharted her path really is. She stands at a crossroads between being a star athlete and a corporate influencer, a role that challenges long-standing norms in professional sports. In many ways, she's stepping into a gray area, and whenever someone forges a new path, controversy is almost guaranteed to follow. Impact. On the next generation, while the current discourse often focuses on Caitlyn herself, there's a broader impact taking shape right behind her. Younger players, still in high school and college, are observing her trajectory with wide eyes. They're learning that the spotlight isn't limited to highlight reels or ESPN features. It can also come from commanding a conference stage filled with venture capitalists and thought leaders. Many up-and-coming athletes are starting to see that the walls once separating sports from mainstream business can be knocked down if you play your cards right. This shift might be particularly significant for women's sports. Historically, female athletes have struggled to receive compensation on par with their male counterparts, forcing many to look for supplementary jobs or overseas contracts just to maintain a stable livelihood. Caitlin Clark is offering a road map for circumventing that struggle. Cultivate a persona that appeals to business professionals, who often have the capital to invest in motivational or leadership development programs. By doing so, an athlete can bypass the traditional reliance on league salaries and brand endorsements tied only to sports performance. High school coaches are even beginning to incorporate elements of personal brand building into their training. Discussions. Rather than focusing solely on free throw percentages or defensive strategies, they're talking about the bigger picture, what it means to market oneself as a well-rounded individual with leadership qualities that appeal beyond the court. This is where Caitlin's influence becomes transformative. She's demonstrating that the next generation of athletes can take complete control of their narratives, define their worth, and negotiate on their own terms. Still, it raises an existential question. If everyone follows her model, will we lose the sense of community and unity that women's sports have worked so hard to foster? Will the quest for personal empire building overshadow the collective spirit that makes these leagues special? Opinions differ. Some argue that increased individual empowerment lifts the entire sport, while others caution that too much focus on personal brands can fragment teams and leagues over time. The road forward, higher stakes, bigger risk, says. Caitlin Clark's schedule fills with keynote speeches, high-level networking events, and brand consultations. The stakes keep rising. Each new engagement brings more money, more publicity, and more scrutiny. Media outlets scramble for fresh angles, talking about her potential to out-earn veteran male athletes, speculating on whether her presence will overshadow the WNBA's next All-Star game, or wondering if she's eyeing a future in business that might ultimately eclipse her basketball career. In an unexpected twist, some older veterans within the WNBA have expressed cautious optimism about her approach. They see a silver lining. Greater visibility for women's basketball might finally push sponsors, media companies, and fans to invest real money and attention. After all, if Caitlin Clark can earn six figures for a single speech, it suggests that the market for women's sports is far from being tapped out. Others remain skeptical, warning that if an athlete becomes too big to confine within a league, it might weaken the collective brand of that league. Meanwhile, corporations keep dialing her number. There's talk of potential tie-ins with tech giants who want her perspective on rapid adaptation and mental resilience, skills they say mirror the evolving technology landscape. Healthcare companies have expressed interest in her take on stamina, both physical and mental, hoping to apply those principles to employee well-being programs. The fact that so many different industries want to link their products and services to her persona indicates that Caitlin's appeal is broad and still growing. But with every new partnership, there's also a risk: oversaturation. If Caitlin's name and face show up everywhere, will she lose that exclusivity that made her fees skyrocket in the first place? Her management team appears to be well aware of this tightrope walk. As some insiders put it, controlling access to Caitlin might be just as vital as controlling her brand message. If she becomes too ubiquitous, the mystique fades, and corporate clients might look elsewhere for the next undiscovered star. Personal values and philanthropy. One element that has endeared Caitlin Clark to many, and perhaps shielded her from a backlash of greed accusations, is her philanthropic activity. She's been known to appear at charity events free of charge, often surprising smaller organizations with her willingness to show up and engage in candid conversations. Tales of her spending an extra hour with community volunteers or youth basketball teams are becoming legendary in certain circles. In fact, some organizers say they initially hesitated to invite someone of her caliber, fearing she'd demand fees they couldn't possibly afford. Instead, she attended at no cost, delivering heartfelt talks that sometimes left entire rooms teary-eyed. Moments like these complicate the narrative of her being solely a high-fee keynote star. They hint at a deeper motivation: building a legacy, not just racking up paychecks. Interestingly, this philanthropic angle has proven to be strategically brilliant. By balancing her corporate asks with genuine community outreach, she solidifies an image of authenticity. Sponsors and executives who might otherwise question her motivations see that she's more than a money-chasing figure. It allows her to maintain a strong reputation without sacrificing the premium rates she charges major companies. Still, skeptics argue that these acts of charity might be part of a well-constructed PR move. They question whether every charitable event is truly from the heart, or if her management team carefully curates these appearances to maintain balance. But the personal accounts of those who've witnessed her off-camera interactions mostly paint a picture of sincerity. She doesn't seem rushed, doesn't treat the events like obligatory pit stops, and often stays well past the scheduled time, a gesture that's tough to fake long-term. The larger landscape of athlete entrepreneurship. Caitlin's story doesn't exist in a vacuum. Over the last decade, professional sports have seen a growing number of athletes dip their toes into business ventures, from LeBron James's production company to Serena Williams' interest in venture capital. Yet, the difference here is that Caitlin is doing this right from the start, with a level of financial savvy and strategic networking that sometimes takes others years to develop. In many ways, she's joined the ranks of modern sports icons who recognize that brand building isn't just about endorsement deals featuring protein shakes or sportswear lines. It's about leveraging an athlete's inherent leadership, resilience, and fame in ways that speak to broader audiences. Traditionally, male athletes have dominated these big business conversations. Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, and others have set high bars. Caitlin's emergence shows that female athletes can compete in that arena too, possibly with even greater resonance in today's climate of social change and corporate diversity initiatives. There's also a broader cultural wave to consider. Media consumers are growing increasingly tired of just highlight reels. They want backstories, insights into the mental game, and stories of triumph over adversity. Caitlin's brand offers all of that. She's an ambitious athlete whose business intelligence seems entirely authentic. This deeper dimension satisfies the craving for narratives that inspire not only sports fans, but also people chasing success in any field. Of course, some observers wonder if the bubble will eventually burst. Can Caitlin maintain this momentum? If she experiences a slump on the court, or if a new star emerges to take the spotlight? The precarious nature of sports can turn even the brightest luminaries into afterthoughts. However, her early diversification efforts suggest she's building a foundation sturdy enough to withstand typical performance dips. She's banking on something more sustainable than a single championship run or a highlight reel of spectacular shots. Her persona as a visionary figure unafraid to conquer multiple worlds at once. Caitlin Clark's ascent isn't merely about basketball. It's a powerful testament to possibility in an evolving era of sports. She's proven that even a rookie can command roomfuls of seasoned executives, bridging the gap between athletic brilliance and corporate intrigue. By maintaining a dual focus, one eye on the game, another on the bigger business picture, she's carved out a role that defies conventional definitions of an athlete's career path. But her story also raises complex questions. Will her brand of ambition inspire other players to seek out boardrooms rather than summer leagues? Could the allure of corporate money eventually disrupt the cohesion of women's basketball? And in a landscape where female athletes have long fought for visibility, does her rapid individual rise help or hinder collective progress? For now, Caitlin Clark continues to walk that delicate line between celebrated basketball star and corporate phenomenon. Each new deal, each new rumor, each new controversy adds another chapter to a story that feels like it's just beginning. Whether you view her as a much-needed trailblazer or a symbol of the sport's commercialization, you can't deny she's holding the world's attention. And perhaps that's the greatest victory of all, taking a sport that's often sidelined and thrusting it into a spotlight so bright that even the wealthiest corporate minds can't resist paying top dollar just to be part of the conversation. Caitlin Clark may have started out shooting hoops in a school gym, but she's ended up inspiring a blueprint for how future athletes might blend the worlds of sports and high finance. The final buzzer on her legacy hasn't sounded yet, but one thing's for sure, if she continues at this pace, she'll become a name people won't soon forget, on or off the court.